Bell Howard here, The Bell Howard Show. Coming up next, we're covering the virtual Democratic Convention and the non-virtual Republican Convention, and I'll tell you which one I think was better. Also, Biden, what's going on? Does he want to be president, or does he just want to grab a bicycle chain and defend the neighborhood swimming hole? We'll also talk to the author of White Telepathy, another bestseller about how white people are evil, and this one is going to spin your head around like the little girl in The Exorcist. I'll talk to the author, Shaheen Getz. Look, folks, I can't promise no malarkey, but we'll keep the malarkey to a minimum. How about that? Broadcasting live on an island of freedom in a sea of technocratic nonsense. It's the Bell Howard Show. And now, here's your host, Bell Howard. Howard. Hello, folks. It's the Bell Howard Show, and my name is Bell Howard. Swim ashore. Come on, that's it. Come ashore, my island of freedom, and take off your mask and breathe the rarefied air of free thought, free expression, and free coffee. Free love, though, the next time you hear the term free love, you should run the other way because it's probably a scam. I would head in the other direction. Folks, what a show and what a week. A lot of spectacle, a lot of chest beating and brow pumping iron. I'm imagining a gym, and men are pumping iron. I don't know where that came from, but the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, came and went, and it was virtual. It was all online to minimize the risk of catching something. And no matter what party you belong to, listen, I always watch the DNC. You know why? Because I don't care who you are. They have the best balloon releases. They do. Now, I didn't see them this time, but remember last 4 years ago? Wow. Remember Hillary Clinton looking at those balloons like a child lost in a candy store? Wes, have you ever been lost? Have you ever seen a balloon release, like a real balloon release, Wes? He can't talk right now. He's eating a burrito. Hands down, they have the best balloon releases, the Democrats. But their brand of fun is kind of tame compared to the Republicans. The Republican National Convention featured a lot of pyrotechnics and without any regard for government regulation. Also, a lot of T-shirt cannons. So there was a lot of explosive sort of fervor, and of course they did it non-virtual. It was live. People were there, and which was all right. There was more spectacle on the Republican side. You know what? When I was watching the virtual Democratic National Convention, it struck me as I was watching some of these pre-recorded speeches, gosh, half of these people are probably not wearing any pants. Just a thought I had. Wes, what do you think about the debate? I mean, the convention. Are you going to vote this time? Wes, folks, he's a never Trumper, but he's also a never voter. Wes has never voted. Why not? It's your obligation, Wes. I mean, you're not obligated to, but it's your right. Sure, you have the right not to vote. And it is difficult in this day and age. You always have to choose between the lesser of two evils. But you do have the right not to do it. If you don't, I know it's always, you know what I do? I have a system. I vote for the candidate with the animal in his or her name. And I know that when you're talking about the Republicans and the Democrats, the candidates have pretty normal names like like Al Gore or uh, Mitt Romney or Grover Cleveland, who they named a Muppet after. That's kind of later on. But no, I have to go way down the list of candidates. But you know what I'm talking about. So if I go down past the Peace and Freedom Party, you get some really funky guys. And last time, I voted for a guy named Charlie Penguin Sunshine the Third for the Peace and Salsa Party. Because why not? You know, that's the beauty of democracy. We have a smorgasbord. We have a buffet of gosh, Wes, that burrito looks really good. What is that? That's just rice and beans. But it's the good stuff. The place down at the corner, right? I don't know what they put in their beans, but man, I just go to town on that. So I voted for that guy, Charlie Penguin Sunshine. And then, before that, I voted for Summer Butterfly for the People's Peace and Sandwiches Party. So, I'm having fun, folks. Let's look at some of the highlights of the DNC. You know, I thought the music was great. They had John Legend. John Legend performed, and another fella who I never heard of, named Billie Eilish. Have you ever heard of him, Wes? Besides the music, they have some great speeches. Michelle Obama, she gave a crackerjack of a speech, although she had a pretty dark tone. She basically said, folks, things are going to get really bad in the future, so you better vote. And it was really doom and gloom. And then she just... And then she called Donald Trump out by name. She said, Donald Trump, you're a chump. Or something like that. I think that's what she said. She said, Donald Trump, don't take a dump on our democracy. Explosive stuff. And then AOC, which stands for Andrea Octavia Carmichael, Andrea Cartavia Cortez. She came out. She did a dance, and then which ended in a cartwheel. She cartwheeled off the stage and kicked a clown in the face. So they did their best, but it didn't compare to the fireworks we saw over at the Republican National Convention. I mean, they had a monster truck rally. And then one guy in a wheelchair, he had American flags and MAGA hat. He had a electric wheelchair, but he sort of tricked it out, and he did donuts in the middle of the floor of the convention center, and he said, all lives matter on his wheelchair on the side. So that drew a lot of ire on the Twitter sphere. The Twitterati came after him. I don't know really where we are now as a nation. I mean, we're so divided, right? We have so much divisiveness in this country. Is it all down to race? Maybe. I mean, that's what the Democrats sure didn't shy away of saying, hey, we've got a race war coming. Recently, we had a book come out called White Fragility, and it's about how, white people can't stand hot weather and spicy food, and that just shot to the top of the New York Times bestseller list. But we've got an author today that wrote a book kind of on the coattails of that book, and his book is called White Telepathy, and it's kind of how white people can speak to each other just with their minds to communicate their nefarious plans to do bad stuff in the world, like they are apt to do. So we're going to get into it. We're going to get into the weeds. We're going to talk about. I don't shy away from it. A lot of people they're very careful about their talking points. Here's the thing, folks. I don't have talking points. And I don't need hot takes to get into the conversation, to get people to listen to me. In fact, I have cool takes, My takes are cool. They're well thought out and reasoned, and I don't have to moralize or try to shock you with something that, this isn't tabloid journalism. This is a real man thinking through today's issues. So without further ado, let's go to our next segment, Cool Takes. Cool Takes. Cool Takes are brought to you by Horses on Ice. Come see nature's most majestic animal gliding across the ice rink in a costume. Now in their 7th season this year, it's something a little more serious. Horses on Ice will be presenting the assassination of Lincoln at the Ford Amphitheater. This electric show features a beautiful Azerbaijani racehorse playing the part of John Wilkes Booth, while his co-conspirator, Mary Surratt, is played by a frisky Italian trotter. Don't miss what Horseshoe Weekly calls high equestrian intrigue, and Old Gray Mare magazine says this is the one to watch. See the most graceful skaters on 4 legs since Tanya Harding. Cool Takes. Citizen Kane was actually the worst movie ever made. The 1941 biopic set the standard for moody character pieces made by Oscar-hungry actors and filmmakers. Also, by telling the story through other characters' eyes, it opened up Pandora's box. Now, every movie is told in flashbacks. I don't know about you, but I hate keeping track of time in my head while I'm trying to enjoy an evening at the movies. The film is also an unfair hit piece on the late William Randolph Hearst, who, wait a minute, Wes, this is a hot take. This was in my hot take pile. And, folks, I got the hot takes mixed up with the cool takes. Oh boy. Just bear with me. Okay, here we go. All right, here's my cool take for the day. Trump isn't racist. He's just too race sensitive. Now, it's not that the president doesn't like people of other races. He prefers not being around them. He prefers the company of other whites. It just makes him feel more comfortable. That's not racism. That's acute race sensitivity. People who call anyone a racist are themselves intolerant because they don't know what it's like being really race sensitive. That's another hot take. That take was pretty hot, or at least warm. Wes, did we label these wrong? Dang it. Okay, all right. Okay, I remember this one. This one is definitely cool and kid-friendly. Okay. Keep your dog on a leash. See, dogs are not like cats. If they're not on a leash, then they will run away and just keep running. And because they don't store long-term memories, they forget who feeds them, and then pretty soon they end up being adopted by a homeless person. And when you recognize them in the street one day, not only do you have to pay the homeless guy twice as much as you would at the pet store, but you also have to buy expensive flea shampoos. Also, don't marry a woman with too many cats unless you like sleeping on sofas. Okay, that was today's Cool Takes. Cool Takes. All right, folks, thanks for sticking with us. On the phone now is the author of a new book that's sure to catch fire, just like the book White Fragility that everyone's talking about. It's the latest in a rash of books exposing the racism that courses through this country's veins. The book is White Telepathy, How White People Use Racist Brain Talk to Communicate Their Nefarious Plans to Other Whites. And the author is Shaheen Getz. Mr. Getz, welcome to the Bell Howard Show.
Actually, my name is Shaheen, and I'm a female.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a male. You know, Shaheen, we just had a book come out called White Fragility. I don't know if you've read that, but that was about how white people are racist because spicy food makes them irritable. What does your book, White Telepathy, add to the conversation about race in this country?
White fragility only scratches the surface. My book tells what white people are actually thinking.
Well, it's a shocking revelation. I mean, because you wonder why are white people so good at controlling things like countries and international finance, and why are they so adept at it while other races seem to struggle with politics? And it comes down to psychic abilities, according to your book. What led you to come to this conclusion and write this book?
Well, this came from realizing that white people were looking at me funny when I was out shopping and nodding to one another when without saying anything, and then a security guard would come up and ask to see what was in my purse. And I would say, "How did that happen?" And it was because they were telepathically communicating. The white people.
Well, that's terrible. But how did you know? I mean, you're not white, I assume.
Actually, I am white.
Oh, well, then you have some insight into the mind games that whites get up to.
That's right. Let me be clear, not all whites have this ability, but only whites have it because there is an unfair advantage in our country. Years of structural inequality have led to many advantages that whites have, and this is just one example, but it's a very significant advantage.
But what about Scatman Carruthers in The Shining? He was a black man, but he had the ability to talk to little Danny with his mind.
That movie is a little misleading. As usual, Hollywood is misrepresenting black Americans. I think what is true about that movie is that black people are able to see ghosts, but not mind meld with other black people or white people.
Well, I guess I don't have that ability because I never know what my wife is thinking. Two white people living under the same roof and yet no mind melding yet.
Like I say, not everyone has it. For those that do, I like to say being white is like being Harry Potter. One day you wake up and you find out you have magic powers and your ancestors were all wizards or even grand wizards.
That's really neat. How do I know if I've got the shining or not? I mean, I want to do the telepathy.
It's all about concentration. Focus your attention on another white person and think of all the dirty racist thoughts they might be having.
Well, okay, let me try it out here. Hey, Wes. Wes, look into my eyes. Just stare into my eyes, Wes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is two white men staring at each other. Now, Wes, are you thinking about. Let me see. Okay, Wes, you're thinking about a Christmas ham. You're not? He's shaking his head. What were you. What? He's thinking about a burrito. Does that count?
It takes some practice. You need to devote a lot of time, just like I did, sitting on a park bench or watching the news and then clearing my mind and imagining the stream of racist thoughts coming from all the white people around me. And pretty soon they'll come to you. They'll just pop right in your head.
So you're using your powers for good. I mean, you're sort of monitoring the thoughts of other whites and just making some kind of record of this.
I spend most of my time watching cable news with the sound off. I keep track of all the racist thoughts I hear on my blog, and you'd be surprised at the cacophony of noise coming from MSNBC.
And what about Fox News?
Not so loud. Then again, they usually say the quiet part loud.
But why are you spilling the beans, as it were? I mean, why are you exposing this, exposing whites when you yourself are white? Why give away the game?
I have to do my part. Some white people marched with MLK, and I'm exposing the forces of darkness, which happen to be light, and siding with the dark, which happens to be right. You see, I want to be on the right side of history, and I want to prove scientifically, which I think the book does, that all white people are racist in a very sort of mystical way.
How did we get here? How did white people come to have this power?
White privilege affords us the time and it gives us the time to develop all kinds of skills. No other race would have come up with the game of ice hockey or the world of Warcraft. We have become an alien species totally separate from all other races, and I think that it is no accident that some very high profile whites want to move back to Mars. We're building rockets and certainly using our psychic abilities to commune with extraterrestrials.
Wow. I mean, it's horrifying that racism has become so insidious and now almost totally undetectable.
Unless you look for it.
But the good whites, like yourself, I mean, you're sort of a whistleblower and you're trying to stop this cosmic takeover from an intergalactic racist superintelligence.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
I said you're trying to stop the intergalactic takeover of a racist superintelligence, presumably from another dimension.
Okay, let me just write that down. Yeah. In fact, that's the premise of for my next book, which should be out sometime next year.
Really? What are the odds? Now, what do your black friends say when you tell them this? Because my neighbor's black, and, we don't always get along, but we're not really friends, but we talk. And in fact, last summer we lit some fireworks together that he confiscated from some kids at his school.
I don't have any black friends.
You don't?
No. Through my research, I found the best way to help black people is to completely separate from them to minimize our malicious influence.
But don't you think that's no better than what a racist person might say?
I am not a racist.
No, I don't mean you are. I mean,
I'm race sensitive. Don't call me a racist.
all right, excuse me. The terminology is changing all the time.
Well, try to keep up with it.
Okay. What is the big takeaway here? What I got from your book is that white people are using black magic to further their oppression of people of color, and there's nothing we can do about it. Is that fair?
Yes, I would also add that we want to move to Mars.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I think about Mars and what it would be like, but I don't really like the color red, so it's not my first choice when I'm buying new clothes.
I know what people are thinking. I know. And they can't help it. They are psychically tuned to a greater power, an ancient power from a distant star. And one day that ancient power will return and destroy everyone on the planet because of our reckless racism. So the sooner we get to Mars, the better.
Well, I'm not a racist, but I like the Dukes of Hazzard.
Some whites will be left behind.
Well, thanks so much, Ms. Getz. It's an interesting book. It's called White Telepathy, How Whites Use Racist Brain Talk to Communicate Their Nefarious Plans to Other Whites. It'll definitely make you think.
And I know exactly what you're thinking, if you happen to be white.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
I am not a nut job.
Excuse me?
That's what you thought just now. You thought, this fruitcake has more nuts in her than a box of Cracker Jacks.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. And I'm going to call my attorney.
All right, folks, it's all the time we have for today. I'm glad we could mind meld together and learn just a little bit more about structural inequality and institutional racism. So remember, we'll be back next time with cool takes and hot guests. I'm Bell Howard. Stay safe, stay sane, and stay free. Bye now.